going live, eh?
So, my name's Stuart Morris, and I have a little natural health centre in Birmingham called Birmingham Holistic Health Centre. And for years, I've been listening to people's stories, therapists, clients, and so forth. And maybe over 30 years, nearly 30 years, they've just been, some of the stories I've heard have been absolutely amazing. And I thought it'd be a nice thing just to maybe talk to one or two people that I know, some I don't know, maybe once every couple of weeks or so, and just find out a little bit more about them, just enjoying their story really. And I've got a friend with me I've known for about 7 years called Jack Stewart, and I met Jack when he came with his wife Anne to do a course called the Healing Codes. So that's where really we're going to begin, just with the healing codes and how you got into that, and maybe just introduce yourself.
Okay, Stuart, thanks. Yeah, I don't know about my story being more amazing than yours. I think everybody's story is more amazing than yours. But anyway, where to begin? It's always a problem, isn't it, when you're asked.
So the healing codes. Well, I met you, and when you came in, you did the course, the healing codes. What got you into the healing codes in the first place? What was it that?
A lifetime search, Stuart. I mean, I always run my life by the Archimedes quote: "Give me a lever long enough, I can change the world."
So that's what again.
Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I can change and move the world. So I've always sought that lever, and you know me well enough. I've consumed, researched, practiced, taught about 40 modalities. But there's two aspects to this. One is wanting to change the world through activism, through truth, through searching, through realising what's going on. And secondly, help healing people. Because you have to have both. You have to be aware of what's going on. You also have to heal the consequences of that and help people. Well, there's nothing, what could be better than service? You know, it's a service to each other, service to humanity. This is what my life's all about. And I met so many incredible people just like you, which enrich every day. Even now, just like that, you know, human contact is almost that maybe illegal. Even today, just being able to touch and reach out to people is incredible.
So the healing codes, why did you do?
Right. Let me go back a bit. We discovered Anne and I, and Anne was a phenomenal healer as well, you know, spiritual healer. A thing called theta healing. And that was very, very powerful stuff. And there's been critics of it, critics of various people connected to it, but I don't mind that. The process works. And Anne particularly thought nothing can outstrip this. But I've always been on the, always been on the lookout for something that can even enhance that. And it's a very interesting story, this. We've just been I think we've been abroad, and a good friend of mine that I met called Kevin Morrison, the late Kevin Morrison, what an incredible bloke he was. He just rang me up and said, "You must get this book, The Healing Codes." What do you mean? I said, yeah, it's amazing. I said, okay, fine. Not really been interested. But we'll order it anyway.
Just another book.
Just another book, Stuart. You know how it works. Yeah. So anyway, ordered it off Amazon, went abroad, came back. There it was on the mat. Oh, Healing Codes. I just couldn't put the damn thing down, and in the end, Anne and I were almost fighting over it. I was absolutely absorbed by it, phenomenal. And set up a healingcodes.co.uk website. I don't think anything's quite grabbed me the way that did. And got in touch with Alex Lloyd, met him.
A bit about his story, do you remember how he got into it?
I do indeed. His wife had been diagnosed with clinical depression, and destroying her, destroying him. And he himself found himself, because he travelled a lot, he's an naturopath. I love the man to be. He's such a fantastic human being. One of the most amazing people I've ever met. And he was apparently on the plane at Los Angeles airport. I think I've got it right, forgive me about it. And he had this experience. He calls it download, I call it channeling. We differ on that, but it doesn't matter. And he just made copious notes. And it was the healing code. And he then sought to apply it. He based the whole process virtually cured. I hate to use the word cured because it's illegal, isn't it? But anyway, he did. His wife, the depression just lifted in an incredibly short period of time. he took it on the road, he wrote a book, he met this, again, the late Ben Johnson, another phenomenal person. Ben Johnson's got 3 medical degrees. He passed about a year ago.
But Ben Johnson, from what I remember, he had an incurable
Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS.
What was it called?
Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, motor neuron disease.
And so he came into the healing codes because of that.
Yes.
And got well.
Alex met him, I think it was in Atlanta. And bear in mind, this bloke's got 3 medical degrees, one conventional. And he was told that you can go off and get your affairs in order. So he got a second diagnosis, you're finished, you don't get your affairs in order. So yes, he battling Alex Lloyd by chance. It always happens by
coincidence.
Pure coincidence. Oh, yeah. Anyway, they got like out on fire. He used the process. They met and became very good friends. And of course, yes, he did. I think he lived 15 years since the process, the healing from the healing codes. And he died of an unrelated condition.
Really? Okay.
But you see, here's another thing. MND, ALS, we'll call it what you want, is what Stephen Hawking suffered from.
Okay.
And he was told he was incurable, he was going to die, and he lived some unbelievable length of time. It was 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't have healing codes, I don't want to separate that out. But yeah, it's one of the most virulent, aggressive, it's terminal from people. But yeah, and he and Ben wrote the book together.
It's interesting because I came into the healing codes around about, but maybe a little bit before, because I had the original website. I had .co.uk, and then I was going to use it for my son, who was ill at the time, but we never did. And it's never really taken off in England, as far as I'm aware. I think you and Anne were the only people that I know of who actually made into a workshop weekend really available for people. Yeah. And it's a bit like EFT. It's one of those techniques that you can infuse into your own life. But even now, some 10 years later, it's still never really got going in the UK, has it?
I feel enthused to revisit it, Stuart. You know, my life's been, the last 4 years have been the most tested 4 years of my life. And then COVID, of course, like for everybody. I'm not feeling special or, call me nonsense.
So before we get on to that, so we're just going to go back a little bit, because I read somewhere, a little note you sent me over, that you were actually adopted. And I kind of knew that because you told me previously.
Yes.
So you said you felt like you awakened 3 years old.
I did. I'm never going to say this.
Yeah. No, I believe that. So just tell us that story. So we go from the healing codes all the way back to that origin when you were adopted from birth.
Yeah, I don't know how old I was. The figure 2 weeks comes to mind. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt, you've heard the expression splinter in the mind in the Matrix, film The Matrix. I just recall being 2 or 3 and just being aware that something wasn't right. Awaken maybe too strong a word, but maybe not. I just knew what I had to do. I don't really knew what it was. I mean, what's all this about? I just felt separate. I felt disconnected from what everything else was going on. And maybe the adoption was a vehicle to enable me to articulate that. I don't know. But all my life until the age of 21, it was revealed, but it was also revealed when I was 8. And I must just share that with you. That's the most amazing thing.
So you had a moment when you were 3.
Yes.
And you came in on the back of this incarnation, adopted, not really knowing at that time your true parents.
Yes.
And you had a moment at 3 years old where you felt disconnected or different.
Yes, absolutely.
And then from there, 8 years old?
Well, I had a normal childhood, quite a happy childhood, but I always, what is it? And my parents, in fairness to them, my adopted parents, are fantastic. I chose them.
Yeah.
And they were amazing. And they encouraged me to learn to have an insatiable curiosity. You know me well enough. I've read the most ridiculous number of books. I can't stop reading books. So yeah, the figure 8. What happened was, it was known to other people in the street in which I lived that I was adopted, but it wasn't known to me. And my parents were very, very protective of that, because this actually came through to me a couple of days ago. They wanted to protect me because they were always scared, because my father was an American major at the Air Base. that I'd be taken from.
Your biological father?
Yes, because it was one of the options was because my mother, my biological mother, had an affair with him, and she was his secretary. Apparently, he wanted to take me to America, even though he was married and got two other kids. And my parents, my adopted parents, always were worried that if I found this, I'd be taken from them. So they protected me and put me in a bit of a bubble. They said I was shy, which is one of not many adjectives that really applies, does it? But I bought into that. But when I was 8, a friend of mine in the street, Mike, who also passed through alcoholism, apparently he told me that I was adopted. And I went to my parents and confronted them about this. And they closed the whole thing down. I don't remember the detail of it. And my father went to Mike, my mate's dad, and there was a fight in the street.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Whoa.
And I forgot all that, of course. It was so suppressed. But when I got into NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming, in my whatever 52 plus 90 up 40s, I thought I've got to sort this. And the way it would manifest, if I saw a car number plate with 8 in it, if I watched the game of pool, I would only be focusing on the 8 ball.
And you didn't really know
I had
what?
no idea. I
Yeah.
buried it so deep.
Yeah.
And on the last penultimate weekend of my 10-weekend NLP course, 10 weeks, I explored this, and the whole mental lot came. And do you know why I suppressed this for so long? I thought, well, if this comes up, even though I didn't know what this was, I'm just going to fall apart. I'm going to almost spontaneously combust with this realization of whatever it is. And in the end, it wasn't. It was a gentle. I remember being held by my adopted father. All this came back to me, all of it, and it just got rid of this eight preoccupation forever.
When you say you were held by your adopted father, did you go back and see him?
I remember being held by him. Yeah, it all came back to me. I remember.
Okay, well, so the memory of being 8 years old,
yeah,
when you were told you went and seen him, and you remembered being held.
I remember all this thing about being the fight in the street and being confronted. That came back. That flooded back. And then once that had gone, I also remember being held by my adopted father.
So what changed from that moment then? When you were 40 years old around then, and you had that realization.
Yeah.
But up until the age from 8 till 40, you carried something with you.
No, 21 is when Mike, the bloke who originally revealed the secret at 8.
Okay.
He didn't realise that I knew, or he realised it had been suppressed and swept under the carpet. Because whatever happened between the parents, obviously there was an agreement, don't mention it. Yeah. I'll never forget that. Funny. Do you remember New Faces, Stuart?
Yeah.
Talent show. Well, every time any act won that, they appeared at the local. It was Warrington Rugby League social club. They appeared there. So they won New Faces and they appeared there.
The step up.
Oh, absolutely.
Warrington Social Club.
What is the rugby league?
Okay, well, the step up from New Faces.
Step up the bloody planet there. And Mike, I've never seen this before. I think there was a hypnotherapist doing a support act at Warrington. And he was very good. Look at all these connections out. It's becoming obvious to me. This is fantastic. And I became a hypnotherapist, of course. But Mike...
on the back of that?
I think this must have worked something. Because I don't know about you. I do know about you. Somebody challenges me, something happens. Oh, I'm going to sort that. No, I'm going to bloody beat that. And anyway, the stage hypnotist did, and Mike volunteered to go up on stage, and he was doing all kinds of stuff. Mike went into this, and he woke up through the trance. What are you doing? And this bloke, open mouth. He destroyed his act.
Really?
Oh, he absolutely. He didn't do it deliberately. He didn't want to. That wasn't his intention. But Mike was just a devil, he's the first streaker and all this. And I'm thinking, wow, dear me. And I don't know if it was that. I think it was that evening. If it wasn't that evening, another evening.
Change the title of the show. And Barry's Faces. Yeah.
But it was either that evening or another evening. I'm just setting the scene with Warrington Rugby League Social Club. Mike told me, I need to tell you something. You were adopted. And we both had a couple of drinks. And this time there was no confrontation.
Yeah.
But it all flooded back to me. I didn't get the 8 stuff.
Yeah.
That was what I was talking. So the first reaction to that was, I've got to be honest, at the time, even though I forgave them massive, huge bastards,
Yeah.
to my parents. And I distanced myself from my parents for months. And it must have been pretty intolerable. And in the end, it was Anne. Remember, I'm 21, I didn't meet Anne until I was 27. It was Anne a few years after we'd met. She told my mother that I'd known I'd been adopted. And that was horrendous. I wasn't there, I was on a course in Britain. My father passed not knowing that I knew. So yeah, it was a big realization, as anybody knows.
How do you feel about that? That your father passed with you not knowing?
I'm in regular dialogue with him, and it's the other side. I mean, at the time,
So you think like all of those, that scene from very early on?
Yeah.
Because I believe there's a part of us that knows the future on some level. Do you think, like, even not knowing you were adopted, set the precedent for you becoming a seeker, not really knowing what you were seeking?
Yes.
And it may be being like, on reflection, part of it was just that I want to know my roots, but you couldn't articulate that. Maybe that led into your spirituality and so forth. Always a seeker on the back of that.
Yeah, right, Stuart. No, not even maybe. It's what it was. I chose to be adopted. I chose 4 parents, 2 to bring me, to create me, 2 to actually bring me up. And the gift of adoption was I've been a lifelong seeker. I didn't say that. It was a massive gift, but at the time it didn't seem like it, certainly not at 21. And I look back at some of the incidents. And I've met, of course, a number of people who've been adopted, some who don't know about their origins. I would exhort everybody to find out who's watching this, who's been adopted, seek their origins. But yeah, that set me on the path. That was the gift. What an amazing thing.
So if we go back then from like 3 to 8 and so forth, and then all of this, you just went about your business as usual because you just in your own way suppressed it and accepted mum and dad as mum and dad.
Yeah.
But you're a sportsman as well, just at school, a swimmer. And
I was still swimming champion. I was. I never get to team sports. I broke my ankle when I was 11. Sorry, 10 at primary school. And I was always conscious. Things like places, things like rugby and football. I could if I damaged that again, I had a problem. I did damage again. But yeah, I was very good at swimming. I was swimming a small group in Warrington. We were being trained basically to be national and possibly even Olympic swimmers. But I'm a bit bored with it. I've always myself fit. I mean, look at me now. I can't fit. My parents came out here. My dad was a weightlifter, bodybuilder, badminton champion. My adopted dad. So there's no genetic. When people have always told genetic, no, it isn't.
Learned behaviour.
You've learned behaviour. But yeah, I've always. And when I went to university, I was really fit. Oh my God, I was at the gym.
So what did you do at university?
I did economics, which was a mistake, but there's no mistake. And of course, going to university, people like me didn't go to university. This is what, 70s. Yeah, well, 70s, 73. They weren't encouraging people to get into massive debt and go to university then. The area in which I was born and brought up, people like me didn't go to university, even though I was intelligent. Yeah, can I say that? It's not egotism. An intelligent bloke who got very good grades at O level, didn't know what day it was at A level, failed all my mock A levels, less than 10%. So it was quite an achievement. The grades I got at A level were so bad that I don't think it could be recorded before. But I thought, well, I've got choice here. I either made the effort, and the school actually made a difference because the maths teacher was just different. They created an extra stream for maths and physics. And I knuckled down, I worked my backside for 6 9 months. And I got very good grades at A and went to university. And
on the back of that, then what?
Got lost again, like we all do. It's almost you find yourself, you lose yourself, you find yourself, you lose yourself. And when I left university, I had no clue what to do. Not a clue.
How old were you then?
21. I got into dressing up as David Bowie, dyed there, God knows how many colours. Just trying to find who the hell I was. It was quite an interesting time. I remember going dressed as Bowie to fancy dress at a rugby club, another rugby club. And of course, Bowie came out as a big bisexual. If you can picture the Stuart, because I've got no pictures of myself, I did a little lad insane disguise. I had like a ribbed skinny sweater just down to here, and I had a pair of swimming trunks on. I did look the part, and I didn't get beaten up. Maybe because I was 6'2", but I thought I'm running the risk here of getting attacked. I loved it. The exhibitionist in me was coming out, and I've been suppressed. I wanted to perform, but I was nobody. I was a DJ as well. That was later on. Yeah. I wanted to perform. I've always felt this suppressed need to perform. And again, I chose. I went from accountancy career, sort of office manager, trainee accountant, to I met a bloke called Jim Fox, who was a transport manager at Birmingham. And Jim and I got on like house on fire, and he was into psychology. Oh, by the way, when I was at university, I read more psychology books than he did. And he lit a fire in me. And I did a diploma in personnel management. That changed everything.
So I guess really when you've had these moments when you were a child,
yeah,
you put them away, and then you had a career kind of in mind to do with accountants and so forth.
Yeah.
And then you've met this psychologist who's inspired you and ignited this need to search once more.
Yes.
You
got it. Yeah, all that.
Yeah.
And I could not stop. Loved it. Became a personnel officer. Last 12 months at a place on Kirby, Merseyside, realised I was more attuned with the blokes on the shop floor than the management. And I then moved on to the health service, which again was, another direction perhaps. And then I went to Liverpool Housing Department, which really, when it all took off, I met various people out there. He got me into management training, management consultancy. I got involved with counselling. I went on a counselling. I actually taught counselling in Liverpool Housing Department.
So there are all these different steps.
Yes.
Really.
Oh.
And relationship-wise, how old were you then?
Well, I met my first, who was to be my first wife when I was 23. 23, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were in management then when you met her?
I was an office manager when I met her.
Okay.
And
it was a wedding meeting.
Oh, God.
Was the David Bowie era?
No, well, she did see me David Bowie, but it didn't work. And in fairness to her, I've not seen her. We split up in 79.
How long were you married for?
Oh, not long. I twisted her arm really, but she went for it. Not very long, so I can't even remember. And unfortunately, and I don't want to say this, I don't want to reveal this on camera, but it didn't work.
That's fine. Yeah.
Linda and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And well, I think that's as far as I want to go. And God bless her wherever she is now. This was Manchester, and she came in one day, so basically I'm leaving or get out and fine. And already had so I did. And it was the best thing that ever happened. But I just wish her well. Yeah, wherever she is.
So from there, you married, you ended the marriage, the marriage ended, you're still in management.
I worked at the health service, and we had a flat that was provided for us by the health service, and that's 3 weeks later I met Anne at a pub in the little manor in Felwall. And I think the rest is history.
So the rest is history, but you met Anne.
Yeah.
And I met Anne.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's where I met you originally, and she was an extraordinary woman and very, very spiritual lady. Was she like that when you met her?
Oh no, she was this. I mean, to me, she had it like. Don't we all have these issues about what we look like? But she thought she was on a trip. She was stunningly good looking. Yeah. You could see her. I saw her across this crowded room.
Yeah.
She worked as a sales negotiator for a housing company, and then we just hit it off. We got together. Was it love at first sight? I don't know. But she called a lot of the shots. And for somebody like me who's so proactive, it's like, it was two egos hitting each other, and very strong personality, you know. And we'd not known each other 5 minutes. This was 79, 81. We had a lot. We all had a lot of baggage. We both, you know, we sparked off. We had arguments, but it was quite an interesting first couple of years. And then her mother passed unexpectedly. And there's a whole story about that that would take up 15 minutes of your time. I don't know if you know it, but as a consequence of her mother passing, and her mother was an amazing, brilliant, fabulous, and it so knocked down sideways that she ended up. It released. That was her spark that lit her up. But she was also quite psychic and mediumistic as a child, but it was always suppressed like it always is. And as a consequence, once her mother had passed, she launched herself into spiritual healing, aromatherapy, massage, reflexology, all within about 3 or 4 months. I could not catch breath.
Really? So you were with this woman who kind of had no inkling in that way, and then all of a sudden, after the passing of her mom, it changed everything for her.
She was like a bloody. I'm just first time I revisited this. It's like a hand grenade going off. She just went for it. She was never
was searching for something.
It was phenomenal. She was doing a full-time job in the week, and then at weekend she buggered up and did these courses, come back. She wanted me as a guinea pig for reflexology, which I really, to this day, a bit of a heel about it, literally, because I've got very sensitive feet, and she wanted to use me as the practice, and she couldn't. Just a lack of it, particularly. But yeah, her passion was spiritual healing, and it released her psychic and I couldn't cope with it. This is well, me, the academic, the scientist, the left brain. If you can't nail it down, you can't see it doesn't exist. And we had 3 incidents that convinced me. Firstly, when we went to Malta, I had a really bad man cold, you know, all cold.
Yeah.
And so I was lying in this hotel in Victoria, the capital of Gozo, and I was on a holiday, you know, I was really suffering. And I remember shouting out, so I'll have some of that soul and healing, you know, taking it. And she later told me she was waiting for me to respect it, and I did. And then anyway, she came over. Within half an hour, it had gone. And a year later, we went back to Malta, went with Jack Stewart to Canada, and I remember running around this mountain, what that mountain, a hill. And I was running along, because I was full of it then, and I was running down this path, and the camera of the path just turned around this corner, and I put my foot down, and there's nothing there, and I stretched my groin, and I hobbled back to the camera. And I hardly walk. I thought, well, this is another grand holiday. So I remember vividly sitting in the passenger seat in this car that we'd hired, and Anne just knelt down about 3 foot from, about 6 inches from my groin, and a load of people walking past. What the hell's going on here? Anyway, gone half an hour, that was sorted. But the real key, about a year later, I was I had a bad car crash in 1977. See, well, how I survived it, I'll never know. Anyway, I was in a gym with Anne, I was pulling this bar down behind my neck, and I just experienced total paralysis.
After the car crash?
This was a legacy of the car crash in 77.
Tell me back there, because I don't want you to skip that over.
No.
That, if you said, like, you've had a car crash and it nearly killed you, what happened?
It was when Linda and I were in Manchester, and I've been drinking all day. And we had this blazing row. And I was seriously drunk. I remember it was in the summer. So basically, I thought I'm going home. And she obviously, I think she knew, because we lived with her. Where did we live at the time? I reckon she was seeing something. I don't know. But anyway, this blazing row.
Yeah.
And because I was drunk, I left her, and I don't feel good about that. But anyway, it all works out for the best. Next minute, I wake up in hospital. What had happened was, this car was a Ford Cortina GT. It's the only car on the road that I could afford that built-in headrest. The only other car was a Saab. I couldn't afford it. Now, all this is with hindsight, because I woke up in hospital. Whoa, what's going on here? And I discharged myself and went home, and I was told, I'd actually crashed the car in the field opposite. I didn't know this at the time, Stuart, where my biological mother had lived with her parents. This car.
My God.
Yes, the car had crashed in the field opposite.
I mean, what's that? Don't you? That's it. That is
Yeah.
incredible. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's when
What's the chances of that?
I only found out with that
Yeah.
time.
Whoa.
What I also know, and I was told by the first responders, you know, the paramedics and people, that I was trapped in this car with the roof had caved in. It was upside down in the field. Fire brigade had to cut me out. I think they breathalyzed me, but again, I don't know because I've got no memory. It was white.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was taken to hospital, I discharged myself. I remember going home. Had that car not had built-in headrest, it would have crushed. It would have killed me because I remember it damaged my head anyway. I would have been dead. No two ways about it.
But luckily, you chose that car.
That
chose you.
That car was, yeah, that car chose me. Any other car, dead. And I remember vividly, I was sat in the front room of my parents' house where I was living. And I remember it was all a bit disoriented because I actually had PTSD and shock. I remember this copper ringing me up on the phone. So it's Mr. Stewart. He said, yeah. He says, oh, I need to come and see you. Now, I only insured this car third party because I was a student. I was doing the first time course. So I remember this copper coming up the road. I remember looking in this, you know, looking here we go. I've lost the bloody car. You know, I've suffered this injury. Now he's going to come and tell me I've lost my license. So he walks in the face down there. So here we go. You know, nothing against him. Just look at his job. He says, oh, well, Mr. Stewart, I'm sorry I forgot to tell you. We did do the test. Well, I got away with it. Whoa, I got away with it. That's the right way. I got away with my life. So yeah.
What did you learn from that then?
What I learned was not to drink in traffic. I learned, perhaps I felt that for the first time, or the second time in my life, the first time was the I'm here for a reason. I should not survive. I should not be. I mean, we may come on to this, the idea of a walk-in. I actually asked when I did I know we're going to come on to this, when I did a check with Diana, I asked Diana, was I the subject of a walk-in? And it shook me, Richard, but it made me, I could have gone one way or the other, you know, be careful, wrap yourself in cotton, but what it made me realise, you've been given a chance here, for God's sake, use it.
So going back to that day in the gym, the third kind of time that you got almost confirmation that Anne was bringing something to you.
Yes.
Something happened in the gym that day.
Yeah, and the reason I told you about the car thing, about its significance, is because the legacy of that was the injury, the hidden injury was occasionally. And I find myself when I was having a shower, and sometimes I'd move in the shower, I don't want to shower. I'd seize up and then it'd go. In the gym, it was serious. I couldn't move. I was panicking. I'm bloody paranoid. I was like, oh God, I'm paranoid. I can't move. I could talk.
Yeah.
But from here down, just solid. So I called Anne over, and there's one other bloke in the gym. It was so, you know, Anne with hands on my shoulders. They just took it off. And she released, within 5 minutes, she released the, just reminded me something. She released the paralysis.
You had three significant things then that Anne brought to you.
That I believe in spiritual healing. Finally, three instances.
So on the back of that then, you began to change.
I did. I started. I thought Reiki was a load of rubbish. I thought spiritual healing was a load of rubbish. But I actually volunteered to have Reiki done on me, and my body spirit. And it all started to unravel, all realization that, and nobody can say to me, there's not a person on this planet who can come to me and say, oh, you always believe in it. I was cynical, skeptical, swine.
It had to be proven.
And it was. But that reminds me of a further. This is huge. Shall I jump to this?
Yeah.
One of the things Anne and I did, we did some work in schools with a local Charlotte. He was a world bodybuilding champion. The man was, I don't know how he got through that. What a man. Oh, it was, what a significant bloke. And he was a head teacher. He's a huge man.
Yeah.
Very good looking. There was no. He told me a story once. He said, well, there was a bloke kicking off, a young lad, 15-year-old kicking off in one of his classes, you know, losing the plot. Bob went in the class. He just picked this lad up, put him over his shoulder and walked up to his office. I mean, it's just typical Bob. And he put me on this bloke called Mark Gleason. He was a fabulous bloke. What I loved Mark, he was a school counsellor. And this is way, way beyond this. Anne and I think there's other incidents. So let me run ahead to this. And this is where the Healy Code really becomes significant. That day, we were invited to go and help with his stepdaughter, our stepdaughter, called Trudy. She was in her 30s. I'll probably get upset. Never quite sure this lad. Incredible. If there's 10 things that happened to me, this is one of the 10.
Some tissues.
Yeah, okay. I can.
I
can recover it. Anyway, we're invited to go and help her, and we were the last hitch to live. In October, she was diagnosed with a brain tumour. In November, she was basically told, go home and die. We can't. All we can do is put steroids. And Anne and my track record as healers was pretty significant, pretty impressive. So anyway, we went there, and for the first hour we were waiting for Mark and his wife, Trudy. We were talking to her sister and her friend. And I've never heard a life of so much rejection. She was, she was adopted, but she certainly lived with her stepfather. I think she had adoption issues. I can't remember. But her whole life was rejection. Dogs dying, pets dying, parents running, people running out on her, leaving her. And she was in her 30s. There's a picture of her on the mantelpiece. God, she was stunning. Isn't it funny how you don't process emotion? You think you process emotion, you haven't. Anyway, she looked like a model. She was incredible. There's a picture of her at a wedding. We went upstairs after an hour of hearing about this stuff, and I was going upstairs. Oh, God. So there's me, Anne, Trudy, her parents, and Mark was a stepfather. And she looked like a circus freak.
We've got a circus freak.
Because she was on steroids, so we were really alleviating the pain of this brain tumor. She looked. So I've seen this picture of her on the mantelpiece. It's a stunning woman. And she looked. Her face is twice the normal size. She looked. Anyway, we did our stuff. Well, Andy split it in, and I just helped her. I was just with her. That was it, really. We explored some of the stuff related to the income, but it really she couldn't communicate to it. Anyway, we went away, drove back. You always think you've helped someone, you know this. You can't think, well, that didn't work, even though sometimes it doesn't. Very rarely, I would say probably that many times it doesn't work in the whole time I've been doing this, but it didn't work. But I didn't think that. So I went back home. That night, I suffered. I don't know if I've shared this with you. This is about 2008, I think. And I felt a stabbing pain between my left shoulder. I had the most horrendous pain in the stomach. I had a headache that my head was going to explode. And I had acid reflux all simultaneously. And I wanted to die. I think if somebody said, give this pill, take that pill and you die, don't have a pill. The inside of me was just on fire. Yeah. It was more than I could take. I couldn't take it. Yeah. I can't handle this. Anyway, of course, Anne was watching all this. And I didn't know, but she commanded Jesus to heal me. I just stopped like throwing a switch. It stopped. It went from an incapability of the human system to deal with it to sense of peace. It just went. It went. And it came back in mind about 45 minutes later, but she told me later she commanded Jesus to heal me. So I spent a year then doing the healing code on myself. And it sorted it. And it was apparently to go back. Here's the interesting thing. The bloke who'd recommended the healing code to me, Kevin, he'd had a gallbladder problem. I didn't know this, of course, until a few months later. He'd been taken to hospital, contracted sepsis, had his gallbladder removed, nearly died. So he recommended the healing code. I did the healing code. I healed myself of the problem. He'd gone down the conventional route. And, well, you know, it lasted a few years, but I know that made a massive difference. So isn't that interesting? He recommended it.
So he introduced it to you, but didn't do it with the same condition.
Yeah.
You did it. It's almost like a karmic kind of link, isn't it?
Very much. Very much.
So that was another incident where you had yet again confirmation of something alternative working.
Yeah. I mean, you can't live through things. You can't live through the car crash, the adoption, the revelation, the that experience with Anna, the healing, and seeing the miracles that she performed. What do you do when you see all this? You know, oh, that's a lot of
You can't
changes you forever.
You can't commit, so
You can't.
Even if you wanted to, you couldn't.
It changes you forever. And then when you work with it, with healing code, and some of the things I've been party to, one woman, do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
We did a demonstration at this place. I'll never forget this. Never. She was in her 70s, this one. She looked ill. This one. She was behind the bar. She was working. They were selling sandwiches and drinks at the place. And we did a demonstration. And she came over later. She said, I said, well, no, of course. What's the problem? She said, so I asked her what the problem was. She said, well, I've had this pain in my chest for about 20 years. It just defeats you through it. I can't shake it off. And I've also got this terrible depression. So she told me what it was. There were two aspects. The one was connected to the death of her youngest grandson who died in his 20s. So I think that was the pain of the chest. And the other, the depression, was caused by when she was a child. I think her stepfather or her father had sexually abused her, and he was going to sexually abuse her brother, and she volunteered to take the abuse just to protect her brother. So all this came up.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yes.
That's amazing.
I know.
So all that came up within minutes.
Within 5 minutes of the conversation.
I think that's amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't. She remembers the grandson because he passed and thought, I can't. But I think she suppressed the abuse. And 10 minutes healing code. Yeah, I'm looking at this woman, and this is an early days healing code. I'm looking at this woman, and it's as if she, you know, you have these programs do facelifts. They go in looking like crap, and they come out, they have a facelift, they have the teeth done, they have their hair done, they do all this, and they look like $1 million. Well, it's like this was all unfolding in front of me. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Because at the time I was in awe of the process. And the great thing about the healing code, you know it's not you. Yeah. You know it's coming through you. It's not me. I'm very skilled at it. That's my contribution, as you are. And I'm seeing this bloody woman change. I said, come on, look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. She's looking in the mirror. And she said, she said, well, yeah, I'm not going to pain. She was transformed. She was transformed. We didn't charge her.
But you know, that's an amazing thing, really. So, having kind of witnessed all of those things, now, if I asked you your take on like the psychological part of a person's life, how much do you think it relates to the physical illness?
Well, you know, this formula is well known. It's spiritual, emotional, mental, physical. It's the last experience. The spiritual is the soul level, the previous lives, the time we spent in other dimensions, in other universes. It all begins up there. But we can also get highly stressed, as you well know, in this life, going off script, as it were. Some people believe in karma. You've got a karmic soul level script that certain people we are scheduled to meet, certain people we are destined. And you know about that from my recent experiences. But the rest of it, because of free will, we can do whatever we want. So we can get ourselves in stressful circumstances. There isn't karmic. One of my favourite birds there. Again. So we can do things. You know, some people say every single thing you do is scripted. Nonsense. We've got key points in our lives. But when we get stressed, and you know all about stress will translate itself into the physical. And it's my belief, and I've read this somewhere, but it's my belief anyway. We've all got weak spots in our physical hand, whether it's an appendix, whether it's a gallbladder, whether it's a left shoulder, whether it's a knee. So when we get ill or we get chronic illness, it's the unresolved trauma. And that's all the trauma. It's the unresolved trauma. And I can never say this correctly. Whenever I talk to Ireland about this, it should be trauma. How do English pronounce trauma?
No, you mean call it trauma, call it trauma.
I'll go for the American trauma because I can remember.
Yeah. So
it's two things to it. It's unresolved trauma and it is stress that we put on ourselves. Then it manifests in the physical. And fundamental, that is a knowing. And it's very hard for 95% of the population to deal with. My experience with my recent relationships, it's almost impossible. Unless you really know that and buy into it. Anybody who doesn't, and I would criticise no one for not buying into that, no one. It's very difficult to subscribe to that and continue to believe it when all around you is telling you that. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it has to be out of your experience, for sure. Yeah. So moving forward then, you've had these experiences, amazing experiences with Anne, you've witnessed the healing, you've been party to that, you've been part of that process as well. And by this stage, you're really into self-help and self-growth. You're running healing codes.
Yes.
And then Anne becomes ill.
I must just share with you two other incidents which are mind-blowing. One, again, when I know, because I know you and I've read the book and come to carry on, and I know your life and I know you've experienced these things. But once we're increased, you know, the Greek fast, I'd like to increase. This was, I don't ever share this with you. Anyway, we're in this hotel, just not far from the capital Iraq here. And during the day, it was just a normal road. At night, the Greeks descended on it, put stalls up and, you know, to temperature nerves. It was incredible. It went from just a normal road to this vibrant, amazing. Now, Amber, she was born in 44, had issues with Germans. She didn't like the Germans. Okay. But she was, I mean, to call Anna racist, to be like Martin Luther King, is ludicrous. But she just didn't like the Germans because of the war. And, you know, that's true for a lot of people. But of course, there are a lot of Germans in Greece, a lot of Germans in Crete. I mean, she didn't have an issue, nobody would know it. But I had to tell you that before I relate this incident. We were walking down the road, and I'm on the ground. Next minute, literally in a nanosecond, she falls from vertical and like in an arc and cracks her head on the apex of the curb.
Oh my God. Whoa.
And for that split second, I thought her head has come off. It's just cracked. She's dead. That's the first thought. This woman is dead. Then I realised she wasn't dead. I thought, well, she's strapped in the skull. Hospital, if that, we're lucky. Anyway, there was me panicking, and there was these two people helped her up. And I looked at her. I thought, I just seen what I just seen. You should have your skull should be taken. Somebody's gone out with a bloody sledgehammer. It was just this. It wasn't really obvious. And she was shaking, and I was shaking. I was more panicking. She said, "It'll be all right." She didn't sound like her. You know, she's a bit fragile. It'll be okay. I don't know how she could survive that story. It is of all the miracles that happened to my life, that is the miracle. Yeah. She should not have survived. No one should have survived. It was far more than me in the car. This was unbelievable. She said, "Well, let's walk back to the hotel." I thought, you cannot be serious. I'm getting to hospital. I'm getting hospital. Ambulance, you know. So no, go to hospital. No, let's go back. So we went back to the hotel. And now I'm just open mouthed walking along this road for about half a mile with a woman who should be dead. Get to the hotel. All about allowing it. Anyway, she went to sleep. I didn't go to sleep. I thought the next day, well, she's going to have to go to hospital. I thought on her face it's going to be. You've ever seen anybody broken nose? Purple, just a slight colour here. And we enjoy the rest of our day. And you know the punchline, don't you? Two people helped her up.
German. But that changed things for her. You couldn't write life, could you?
So what a bloody thing that was. Dear. No right. You witness that. I've had about 10 life-changing things. That would change anybody's life. I've had about 10 of them.
Yeah. So moving forward then, and perhaps one of the biggest life-changing things we got come to now is really, Anne became ill.
But before she became ill, you know about Diana in 2011. Discovered healing codes in 2010. 2011. A fortnight after it happened, Anne comes downstairs. She said, "I've got something to tell you." And it was always the case with Anne. You know, when somebody says that, you know it's going to be interesting. It didn't just, well, I decided to change my car, or I decided to dye my hair a different colour. It was, "I've got something to tell you." She said, "I don't know how to say this to you." I said, "Well, say it, I don't know whatever it is, I need to know." So, 2 weeks ago, I was lying in bed, and I didn't tell you, and I saw Diana at the bottom of the bed. As you do, that's my suggestion. I thought, oh, I know, look at this one, 30 odd years, anything's possible.
I remember you coming here with Anne.
Yeah.
And you set the chairs up in that room. And Anne said to me, you were both there.
Yeah.
I've not told anybody this. Well, she obviously told you.
Yeah.
She said, but I think I'm channeling Lady Diana.
Yeah.
And we spoke a bit more. She said, I don't know what to do. I said, just go with it. Just go with it.
Yeah.
And I know you were really encouraging of that. But she questioned herself. I know, because she was saying so much for such a long time. Am I making this up?
Yeah.
Is this real? Until really in the end, she accepted it as truth for her.
She did. But you see, you were one of a number of people. And bear in mind, on the healing code courses and these healing, we come across highly spiritually evolved, mediumistic people.
Yeah.
You know, our circle of friends was significant people, and you were one of them. So she checked out with at least 3 mediums, and she wasn't losing it. You know, you confirmed it. Because I couldn't help her, even though I was into stuff. I thought, well, you know, I'm still a bit about all this stuff. Yeah. And she became suicidal. One of the consequences, she lost about 2 stone in weight. She became suicidal. She couldn't cope with it.
Yeah.
The world's most famous woman.
Yeah.
When she was alive.
Yeah.
God knows how many billions watched her wedding. Everybody who didn't know Diana, an indigenous person in the bloody Amazon who didn't know Diana, and she was channeling this. And she said the reason I didn't tell you because you think I was mad.
Yeah. And that was massive for her, really. And the back of that came a book.
Yeah.
And then Anne became ill.
She did. But before she became ill, she had a mini stroke, a TIA, in October 2014. But the Diana connection is significant because Diana, we moved to Malvern because we spent most of our lives in Northwest. We moved to Malvern in 2013. And we actually moved house on the day of Diana's birthday. It was Diana's birthday. Another significant. And so we stuck in Malvern because the reason we moved to Malvern is Diana's favourite proposal was Elgar. We liked Malvern, so we moved to Malvern. And first winter, the winter of 2013 was horrendous. There was a lot of floods in the air. It was damp. We really didn't get to know many people. Then we joined a development group with a one called Emma Gallagher and other people whose names will come to Tessa, interesting people. And that was fine, you know, Anne was, but she wasn't, it's all with hindsight, she wasn't herself, wasn't 100%, and I couldn't, perhaps I didn't want to see it. Because I remember when we went to Greece, and normally we went to Thessaloniki, the city, we went en route, we flew to Thessaloniki from Manchester to, and then we travelled by boat, by bus to Thassos, not Thassos. It's a place where Alexander the Great has a tribute to him. That's hugely significant. Huge. And then we travelled by boat to Thassos. But when we're at Thessaloniki, there's a thing there called the White Tower, and it's about 6 stories high, 7 stories high. Now, normally Anne has as much energy as me. You know, she's 8 years old, and I'm full of it. She was no problem. We went up the tower, and she wouldn't go beyond the 5th or 6th floor. I didn't say anything. Right.
Yeah.
And there were a few other incidents before she had the mini stroke that I thought, and it isn't now. I would challenge anyone before she had the condition kicking in to be fitter than her. She was phenomenal. And you know how fit I'm not a lot of energy. So yes, so she had this mini stroke. She couldn't speak. I was in my office. We both had an office at there. And she came in, couldn't speak. Oh my God, what's going on here? She was fully functional about not being able to speak. So, oh dear me, I need to sort this out. And again, typical hand, don't panic. But I did only a few people. All medical staff, medical related. Knowing she didn't like hospitals. She always told me I don't like hospitals. So I didn't take her to hospital. Part of me wanted to, part of me didn't. So I rang about half a dozen people. Emma, person I mentioned before, she was an occupational health nurse, one of the previous jobs. So I rang Emma. Emma came round. And I also rang, obviously, I rang the two daughters, Karen. And Karen came up. It's 100 miles from home to the northwest. But by late evening, after Emma had been around, she started to talk again. So the panic was over. And I think Karen came up, she was talking. But one of my greatest friends, who's a conventional and alternative doctor, Yanis, who lives in Athens, he said, you need to get her checked out. So I did. Anyway, she got checked out, and they said she had a mini stroke, but she'd be fine, she'd recover from it. I think she had a couple of scans. So this is October. By Christmas time, she'd almost fully recovered. Wasn't a problem. And that was, so, but what I had discovered for a couple of months, she was getting called every day by this woman who'd been getting a free reading of her. It was stressing her to hell. There's another woman who was calling her every week. So these two women are really stressing her out. I didn't know any of this. Just sticking around, Anyway, things built up and built up. All this is with hindsight. And again, bearing in mind what I've just said, she almost fully recovered by Christmas. By the new year, she was fine. But she wasn't. It was obvious.
And part of you probably doesn't want to believe, when you're with each other, and it's only like you haven't seen someone for ages and they look different.
Yeah.
When you're in it, you don't really see it, or you don't want to see it.
No, you don't.
You're frightened, and like it just, part of you wants to reason it away. It's okay.
Well, I've seen, people watching this, take it back to this phenomenal healer. I haven't given any account of Anne's healing skills. She has this unbelievable experience in Crete.
Yeah.
She heals me. She heals people. And,
she's the last person.
Yeah, she heals herself.
Yeah.
And I think, well, there can't be anything wrong.
Yeah.
She can do anything.
Yeah.
She's bloody superwoman.
Yeah.
I thought, what can't she do? So it's not ill. So this was around about March now, and then the balance started to go. It all becomes a bit blurred. It's all very stressful period. And she wasn't herself, and she said, I need to go to the hospital. And we'd already booked an appointment with a very good friend of mine, Clyde Hughes in Swansea. And Clyde Hughes has appeared on some of our internet stuff to release some dark energies. Now, Anne brought into that more than I did. So we'd already booked this, I think, on the Saturday. I think on the Friday, she said, I need to go to hospital. And I said, well, okay. But we need to go and release these dark energies. And do you know why I made that choice rather than go to hospital on the Saturday than the Sunday? No, we were going to Clyde on the Saturday. That's right. I said, no, I'm into Winchcombe. That's right. I'm into Winchcombe with the Cotswolds, where I've only just made this connection.
Yeah.
When I met my partner now, Riley, when she revealed certain things to me, my whole life changed in Winchcombe.
That's amazing.
I hadn't made a connection with that at all.
Until just.
We were wandering around, it's a beautiful little place, wandering around Winchcombe, and Anne wasn't right, badly not right. And she actually walked into this fruit store, we've got a few. Anyway, we got through the day and we were going back in the car, and I said, I was really worried about it. I said, look at the sky and tell me what colour it is. She said, it's grey. And it wasn't, it was blue. I said, it's blue. She said, no, it's not, it's grey. I said, you're not right, are you? She said, yeah, I'm okay. I didn't say anything. I thought, you are seriously not right. So I said, we'd already booked, and this was the Saturday, we'd already booked to go and see Clyde in Swansea on Sunday. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because when people have dark energies, I with Anne, I haven't done it, she's done it. I've actually done some exorcisms. She's done 3 exorcisms. One that I don't think your viewers would believe. You wouldn't believe. You would, but the people believe. One of the consequences is when people are possessed by dark energies, they deny their own wellness. They make things up about themselves. They tell lies about themselves. It's as if the dark energies are speaking through them. So when Anne said, I'm okay, it was the dark energy. So I thought, well, for you to you're not going to get dark energy released in hospital. I thought, to stand any chance of getting through this, whatever it is that's afflicting, we need to release the dark energy.
So you really wanted to explore that avenue before you went down the medical route, in a way.
I was torn. I was totally torn between this woman who clearly wasn't well, taken her straight to hospital, and clearing the dark energies.
Yeah.
And it really, it caused me serious problems. It really did.
Yeah.
And again, you know, the people who've been critical of me since don't know this. I didn't know which path to take.
Of course, yeah.
I really didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, we took her to hospital. She was kept overnight. She was put on a trolley in the corridor. I'd been up all day. This was 11 o'clock. I was falling asleep. She couldn't move her left. I think her left her right arm. The hospital were brilliant, even though they were stressed. It was in his head. Anyway, she was kept in, thank God. And I went home because I was falling. I went falling down. And again, it's all a bit blurred. I think it was the next day I was hospital, which was in a ward. I think it was the next day. They'd done all kinds of tests, all kinds of diagnosis. And they sent this junior doctor who did not really well. He was perhaps 20. Didn't know what the bedside manner was. I've no idea against him at all. And he just sat down outside the bed and got some bad news. You've got a brain tumor. And I didn't look surprised. Typical Anne. Anyway, I'm compressing it all now into a few days. She was going to go, she was told she had to go to Coventry. Or they wanted to do I don't know what you call it, a pre-op thing, whereby they insert a probe into the brain or something to test it. And I was a bit concerned about that. So I rang Yanis in Greece and he said, well, you need to be careful about these biopsies because they can actually make it worse. So I said, okay. So I was a bit resistant to that. But anyway, got on story short. She had to be taken to Coventry, which is the UK centre of brain cancer. And when we went there, I went there with Karen and Andy and Josh and Nicola. No, Nicola wasn't there anyway. It's because it's all a bit blurred, it's so stressful. And we got there in the dead of night, so about 1 a.m, I think. I was taken out in the ambulance. And I was shown the X-ray of her brain tumor. First thing I was shown when I through the door, it's this. And the bloke said, it's not operated, it's going to die. So all my confidential alternative stuff, which I still believe about, you know, I still believe it.
Yeah.
Get it sorted.
Yeah.
3 days later, she was. I could go into detail about what happened to her before the operation and all the horrendous stuff that's said to her. But I remember shaking the surgeon's hand when she came out of operation. It was a 9-hour operation.
For a relief on some level.
It was a relief. Well, she could have died. I mean, she was told before she went in, you may die. That was negative. And the thing that surprised me, see, on this, you could explore this if you wish. I thought when she comes out, she's in intensive care. I thought the first person she's going to ask for is Karen to see her, because she's very close to Karen. That's great. But she's not going to ask for me. I'm going to be 39. She asked for me. I thought that's strange. And you know how close we were. But that surprised me. Anyway, she got about God knows how many tubes. You know all this stuff. Tubes coming out of it. And but anyway, she was kept in the hospital for a couple of weeks. She recover. She was given a catheter, all kinds of things. I think the diagnosis was, but eternal optimist. This is the subject, you know, the book of it. So I need to condense this. Let me condense it all. She came out, took her home, even though they wanted to keep her. I think they wanted to keep her in for it to die. They never told her. Later, got her home, the GP came round, said to one of the nurses who read to reveal she's not going to make the weekend. Anyway, she did. She recovered. This was she came out in April. By June, she was fit enough. I took her to Diana's memorial in Oval. And the walk from the car park to the memorial is a mile. She walked that mile. She walked a mile there, walked a mile there. She was probably, whatever figure you want to look at there, 90% healed. She had certain, it was amazing. I thought she was going to fall through. She had this huge power. Anyway, got long story short, I know she met Diana that day. And Diana said, if you want to come join me, I'm here for you. She'd already been told through Jonathan Brown that when Diana, if she did pass,
Jonathan Brown's a
medium, that's right. Diana would meet her.
Yeah.
She had that stay on the airplane and go over it. But she decided to pass.
I did that leave.
Can't describe it. Let me try and articulate. How many levels do you want to go on? She was my business partner. We ran courses together. We travelled all around Greece and the UK. We travelled running courses. She knew me as well. She you got it. I can revisit this. I can't.
It's real, and it's your life story.
I can't.
But when it's visible for anyone to see. You started to.
I was suicidal, of course.
Yeah.
I thought, I want to join it. That's my first thought. I came very close. I know Jonathan was worried, because he knew. I'd had enough. I can't be. That's, devastating. This word.
You picked up on some level. You got through it. God knows how, but you did.
Yeah.
And you planned to go to Greece to live.
I did, even back then, and I forgot about that as well.
Yeah.
I'd even forgotten about that. So yes, I planned to go to Greece. Yeah.
Well, I remember.
Mm-hmm. See, you can remind me of this. I forgot.
Yeah, I remember. Probably 2 or 3 months after Anne passed.
Yeah.
And I was in the bath.
Yes.
And
this is
crazy, but it's the truth. And it sounds mad, does it? Anne came, we went up in the back.
Yes.
And she would. And she would, and she did. She said something to me. And I said, I can't. Oh, Jack, he's going to think I'm crazy. But significant things happened, and I knew I have to email you. And I said, Jack, this might sound whatever it is, and you may think it's crazy, but I'm going to say it because it's the truth.
Yeah.
And I never heard from you for about 3 or 4 months, and I thought, you must think I'm crazy. And then you came down, you said, that thing, we won't discuss that thing you said to me, changed things for me. And it did on some level, where you planned to go to Greece and you're going to build your life. You dusted yourself off, because I don't want to detract from the amount of trauma and the amount of effort that must have taken because I'm going to rebuild and see my life out there, and then change again.
Oh God, yeah. I'd completely forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Well, Anna set up this development circle, you know, and I did this, the sort of aspect, and Anna did the spiritual. And then we regularly had about 6 to 8 people.
In Greece. Yeah.
No, this was in Malvern.
Okay.
Yeah. And there were 2 people who were there, virtually there at every meeting, Claire and Vanessa. And Vanessa, I just really liked her as a human being. I was all of them, particularly Vanessa, because she was always there. And she was the most open and honest person. And they were all open and honest, but she revealed things about herself. Yeah. And she seemed almost fearless. And I really admired her. You've got some bottle. I just thought she was a really wonderful
person. So it was a strength you were drawn to.
I was drawn to her strength.
And wasn't that medicine for you, in a way?
Of course it was. Yeah, she was very strong the way she dealt. And I'm not going into the details.
Yeah.
It's personal. I would cause problems for myself, and I promised.
You don't need to.
Well, I promised her daughter, and I promised other people I'm not going to reveal things about them. I'm going to stay like that. But anyway, I really like the woman. And one of the things that when Anna passed, it was an unfinished business that I was told by Jonathan. Because Jonathan helped me through. I think anybody said that. Well, no, I don't think he was hit.
Yeah.
He did. I mean, he knows this.
Yeah.
And Anne came through, and it's actually on tape. Anne came through. It's physical mediumship. Yeah, she actually came through, and she said a couple of things through Jonathan. One, that I can love again, because believe me, I'm thinking about that.
Yeah.
And secondly, you only an angel will do. That's great.
Yeah. It's a powerful statement.
It was, and that helped me, because I thought, well, it may or may not. You know, I hadn't planned to go to Greece, so I probably hadn't been to Greece. But one of the unfinished business was, what happens now to Dinah? She's going to come through me, and also I wanted to do an audio version of the book. So I thought, well, Vanessa, she's got a wonderful speaking voice.
Yeah.
So why don't I approach Vanessa? But I'd also realised, I thought, because things change. I mean, if anybody wants to read about this, just read what happens when someone close to you is passed. Your whole hormonal system shifts, and you start going to places and things and doing things and thinking things you would never know what to do. So I thought, well, Vanessa, yeah, perhaps I need to rebuild my life. Well, Vanessa's a character. So I just sent her an email saying, "Are you interested? You know, would you be interested in doing an audio book? And would you help me take notes if I channel Diana?" Well, Vanessa's really into it. And then apparently, and I can't remember, apparently I put at the bottom of the email, I think we're both on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Now, when Vanessa gave me feedback, she said she just knew. But I need to give you a bit of a backstory as well. It was quite funny, really. Because Claire was totally fantastic. He passed a couple of years later. But Vanessa was, even though she had a relationship at the time, which was great because I met her and I thought she was a good bloke. There was nothing, no romantic, sexual, or physical attraction between me and Vanessa. Even though she's an attractive woman, you met her. There was nothing. But apparently it was a bit of a joke between her and Claire that everybody should have a Jack. But apparently it was a bit of a joke between her and Claire that everybody should have a Jack. But as a partner, what does that mean? You know, and it's because I was apparently just quite a decent, grounded person. I don't know what it was about. They used to joke themselves. So anyway, Vanessa and I met. And we saw, there was a spark there. And the rest is history. And the word tsunami became a bit applied to me on more than one occasion. And I just thought, well, yeah.
You went for it.
I went for it.
And in a way, I guess he helped you rebuild your life in a way that you were focusing on going to Greece, but meeting Vanessa helped you rebuild your life yet again.
It did. And You know, I had an experience a few days ago. I'll tell you all about it. Sickened me in a way about this.
Okay. So going back to that then, so you developed
me in a way about this.
So going back to that then, so you developed a relationship with Vanessa.
Yes.
Family love.
Yes, absolutely.
In a different way, because I think we love people in so many different ways. And eventually you got married.
Yes, got married. Our first sort of date at this Curry wedding, got it together, was in September 2015. We got married in April 2017. I moved in with her in April 2016. And she called me the King of Swords because she'd been told by a very good local astrologer called Paul Rails, a fantastic human being. He's an amazing man. It was almost like, if you were to describe my personality traits and all that I did, it's like, it's me. And here's the interesting thing. Vanessa had been for a reading with Anne. I don't think I told you this.
No.
And during that reading, Vanessa was later to tell me that Anne became tongue-tied, that Vanessa was going to meet a man, and the man she was describing was me.
Whoa, what revelation that was.
And Anne became tongue-tied, and Vanessa started to get, because she met me, because I opened the door, so she was there. So yeah, basically Anne said, you're going to get into a relationship. So, and that was when Anne was well.
Yeah, she knew.
She knew.
And she knew after. Because she.
So there's Anne. You know, when the hell was this? I can't even remember that. Just before the stroke. It must have been. So Anne, before she'd had a stroke, was already doing the countdown to when she was going to leave the earth. You know, I realised that.
So you're in this marriage now with Vanessa?
Yes.
And you're ticking along and then, you know, doing some, getting your life back. So I know you came here, did a tour.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of rebuilding your life in a way. And then Vanessa became.
Oh my God. You see the pictures that I've made. I mean,
yeah,
you know, unbelievable.
You couldn't ever foresee that.
No. So bearing in mind when Anne passed 2014, August 22nd. Vanessa had been on HRT, hormone replacement stuff for years, and she wanted to come off them.
Yeah.
She told me she wanted to come off them. She didn't like it. So she decided to make the decision to go off them in June. Some people had suggested you got to do it gradually. Some people, but not me. I would consulted with my hell what I didn't know.
Yeah.
Come off them gradually. Come off them straight away. So she come off and she stopped taking them. And she started to get one or two symptoms. I even can't remember what the symptoms were. So this is June 2017. And it was also to do with the digestion. So I don't want to go into detail. It's a bit gross, some of it. But her health didn't improve. Her health started to decline slowly. It wasn't obvious at first. I remember her saying to me, she told me years ago she'd had polyps removed. And she had a colonoscopy, she had all kinds of things, which were pretty serious. I didn't know how serious. I didn't know how serious, but she said, yeah. So she said, well, I think she had this. She said, well, I don't want another colonoscopy. I don't want that. That's all. And she'd also said a few things also to me that, you know, her mother had died of cancer. She said she would never take chemotherapy. All this was really cancer. And she'd also said, if ever I became impaired, and again, I only realised that became impaired, that it affected my ability to go for walks and do certain. She said, I don't want to be here. She said, that's it, I don't know what's happening. What degree of disability does that kick in? So her health started to deteriorate. So she went on a gluten-free diet. I consulted various people. She consulted various people with all sorts of alternative people. Anyway, to cut long story short, because I need to be careful here, because it was a dance between Vanessa, and Vanessa was totally committed to she was training with me to become a spiritual healer, totally committed to alternative complementary. And she also, because of this colonoscopy thing, didn't particularly want to go down that route. But in the end, she had to. And just before she went into hospital, in the end, she had to. And just before she went into hospital to be, I mean, she was a health deteriorating. There's all kinds of other things that I really don't want to discuss. And she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in around about Christmas. I would say it's all faded because it's such a heavy trauma again. But I've seen her gradually decline in 2018, I think it's 2018, 2019. Now, one thing I did, which I will reveal, because it's, you know, I can be criticised for it, it's nothing to do with anybody else. I just knew that if she went into hospital, I knew in a way that I was scared that she was going to die. Because, and when I was told that she had to go into hospital, and she did have to go into hospital, and also she's going to go into hospital and she would have been cured. Well, that will never be resolved. That's a different side of it. Myself, that will never be resolved. But I flipped. I thought, I've lost Anne. I can't handle this. And I just got in the car and still now and drove and thought, I couldn't deal with it. I could not deal with it.
Running away from the pain.
Yeah,
which is understandable. Anybody would feel the same.
I couldn't deal with it, Stuart.
Yeah.
Couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
And it was bad.
Yeah.
And it was abandonment. And it was scant. And it was horrendous. And I was wrong. I couldn't help myself.
Jack, you were in pain.
I know.
And that's the truth.
But you know, again, I won't go for that, but I don't care.
So she was diagnosed with terminal stage 4 cancer.
I was still optimistic.
Yeah.
Jonathan was, other people were. I don't want to go into detail. Anyway, she didn't recover.
Mm.
On August the 23rd, no the date, one day after Anna passed.
Which is incredible again.
She passed in St. Richard's Hospice in Malvern, now, I'm confusing out there. And again, no one will believe this unless they're into the kind of thing that we are. When she was in her final hours, final days, she confided a lot in Jonathan, and Jonathan's not told me half of it. Mm. But one thing she said, I will not get on that. For me, all the signs were going to pass on the 22nd, the same day as Anne, but she said to Jonathan, I am not going to pass on the 22nd.
Oh my God.
So she passed a day later. Yeah.
And again, your world collapsed.
Now, this is probably the most fascinating aspect of this wonderful conversation I'm having with you, and I'm so grateful for this, because it's therapeutic and cathartic and all those things. Is it because Anna passed and that I've been so devastated? Because I know I've been together with Anna for 6 years. Did that prepare me from the death of Vanessa? I'll never know. I'll never know. In other words, would I have been able to deal with Vanessa's death? I just don't know. Who can answer these things?
I don't know either.
Nobody can.
Nobody can. Yeah.
Nobody. No, you can't put a gauge on someone's pain. You can't say, well, you're suffering. It's 10 out of 10, and you're only 3 out of 10. Mm. It's subjective. It's what is 10 for me is 3 for you. Yeah. But yeah. So I thought, well, I'm definitely not at risk now. Once I've recovered, which God knows when I did recover.
I remember you planning it again to go. You know, and I guess in a way, you wanted to change your life and see your life out in Greece.
Well, I thought, I've had 2 soulmates go in 4 years. I've got to change everything. The lots, I can't cope with it anymore. I'm off. But there was things about the house and the Vanessa's daughters and the whole business of that to resolve. And I know when Anna passed, it took me about 18 months to do with the admin and all kinds of things. The pain of Anne's passing was still raw after I met Vanessa, because I was dealing with Anne's administrative stuff a year after I met Vanessa. Yeah. And again, that's not now why, But yeah, I thought I've got to go. I've got to go to Greece. I spoke to Jonathan about this, suggested that I went in April. Bear in mind, Vanessa passed in August. And that was a decent time scale for me to get myself in order, to find a place in Greece, decide what I was going to do when I got there. So I got it all planned. I'd even changed, as it rolled out, I got in touch with some removal firms. I went over there in November I was going to move to Napoli. I met a woman I'd not seen for 20 years. Even changed my motorbike. I got it all planned. It was all there. All short booking the flight, done everything, so ready to go. And then, but I thought, well, okay, it's now September, October. I wouldn't mind just some female companionship, simple as that. Between now and then. So again, I've got to be careful here. I don't want to
But you don't have to mention any names.
No, I won't. Mention their name before people forget that. So I thought I'll just enjoy female company for a few months. That'll do me. If you're going to Greece, I'm going to Greece. Whatever happens, I'm going to Greece. I don't care who you are, what happens here, Greece. Of course, again, the universe intervened, didn't it? I met this particular person, and she revealed information about herself to me. Everything changed, and this was in Michigan.
Isn't that amazing? It's almost like you've come full circle. Your life is full of circles. The car crash, relating to your biological mother, Wickham and Anne and all the different links, really. So at the moment in life, you're rebuilding your life again.
Yet again.
And I just kind of want to...
For the last time, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not, this is the last. I know how I felt, you've seen it, people watching this, but I can assure you, no more.
So I just kind of want to almost like summarize some of these parts. I mean, we could talk for more, but we won't. But I just kind of want to ask you a few last questions, if that's okay.
This is so useful for me. You've remotivated me. It's almost the flame of getting back on the road, doing work has been reignited.
So I guess that's not my question, really. If you were to take a moment and just think, if you reflected on your life to now,
yes,
and you thought, well, actually, there's one big message in life that you've learned. So if you went to heaven tomorrow, what would you say you've learned about life? What would you say about life?
The answer contained in the book. How can you summarise? It's a very, very good question. And it's even changed. It's just driving here today. It's 80 odd miles here. I'm listening to stuff on a podcast. And it's changing literally. Be eternally curious. That's one of the greatest gifts. Always be curious. Never ever just park yourself. Learning lasts forever. We're certainly eternal beings having a spiritual experience. I can't answer them online. This is an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. I think is the quote. Everything is real and hard and concrete, but that's our sensory bodies confirming that to us. While you're here, two things. Create happiness for yourself. Whenever I get emotional, not about my past, there's nothing to do with that. It's total not a confirmation that I'm getting messages. I don't get many messages through. I'm going to patent this. Create happiness for yourself, and you must create happiness for yourself to begin with, because you can't spread happiness around if you are miserable. You'll make other. Create happiness for yourself, create happiness for the rest of you.
Jack, on that note, I think I'd like to close and thank you very much for being honest and open and sincere. And I'm sure a lot of people who know you won't know the extent to the things that you've lived through, and you are creating that happiness, in spite of all the things that you've been through. So thank you very much, Jack, for being open and honest.
Well, thank you, Stuart. And just the final word I want to say, We need help. You can create happiness for yourself, but it takes another person to do that. And you know I've met another person who's done that for me.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Amazing. That's